Here's one that was included with YouTube Premium that I never ever thought I'd actually watch. A great story that is sort of folksy. Based on the music, I would describe it as the soundtrack, folksy, about unexpected pregnancy, coming of age, growing up, and all sorts of family issues. This is 2007. Jennifer Garner, Jason Bateman, J.K. Simmons, Ellen Page, a bunch of others. Juno. Now, it's amazing how these things work out to be timely and newsy. I'd heard about Juno back in 2007, had never ever seen it. It just didn't seem like my thing. Having seen the X-Men, where Ellen Page was Kitty Pryde, X-Men 3, did she appear in 2 briefly? I thought, maybe it would be interesting to see it, but never really took the time. It's interesting that it was newsy because I watched it, and a few days on now here this morning, I saw that the writer of the story was talking to the news media about how horrified she was to discover that people looked on the movie as a pro-life message, which is really sort of interesting. You know that those people in Hollywood are overwhelmingly anti-life and pro-baby murder, but you never, you see the movie Juno, and I was surprised in seeing the movie Juno here that it does clearly convey a pro-life message. Now, it's not a pro-life message in big terms, if that makes sense. It is not a film about family values, religion, traditional values, or the nuclear family, right? But it is sort of, at a bare minimum, there's a critique of abortion that is pretty obvious in the film, which is it's kind of surprising that I can't imagine that the writer is surprised that it could be taken that way. When you make art, if you make any kind of good art, it's open to a variety of interpretations. Even you, the artist, lose control over how people look at it. I say this all the time about movies. Starship Troopers was meant to be a satire, but I found it very inspiring. I learned not too long ago that They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper was supposed to be a critique of big business in the Reagan years. I totally took that as a critique of any sort of totalitarian society that controls the economy, like communism. But when you make something good, it's not preachy enough to convey a singular point. Anything that's preachy enough to convey a singular point is cheap, untalented, and is not really art. It's just propaganda, like all the woke stuff we've gotten for several years. So I'm not surprised that the writer of Juno is pro-baby murder. I am kind of surprised that she didn't realize that her film could be interpreted another way, because the way the abortion clinic is portrayed, with the weird lady at the counter with the flavored condoms talking about her boyfriend and her sex life and what his junk smells like while wearing the flavored condom, and the weird, sweaty, twitchy, smelly people in the waiting room that cause her to get up and flee, and her friend outside she knew from school who was an anti-abortion protester who politely said, "Your baby has fingernails," and was holding up a sign that says babies are against, being murdered, something to that effect. So it was pretty obviously not, to me it was not a very pro-abortion sort of message, but again, not one that was meant to convey a ton of traditional values, so to speak. I was surprised at also how good the film was. It is very, almost like an independent sort of film feel. It is very folksy, the weirdest soundtrack I've ever heard. Like, everything sounded to me like it was written for this and written to sound consistent. I could be wrong. I didn't look it up. Maybe it's some folk group's album released at the time. But all of it seems to fit the mood, the message, the difficulties and the struggles of the young people in their relationships, of the parents in their relationship, the would-be adopted parents who end up breaking up. Jason Bateman and Jennifer Garner play them. In the end, it's an unexpectedly for me, it was a very emotionally satisfying sort of film, the way it unfolded and the lessons that were taught about human relationships within it, as well as the subtle message of keep the baby and the separation she goes through with it, all of that. I thought it was surprisingly to me enjoyable, entertaining, and very interesting to watch. It was emotionally engaging. So what did you think? Have you seen Juno? Let me know what you think below. We'll see you next time.